What's up, everyone? I'm back again. Now, I'm gonna have a conversation about or talk about the research and studies of U.S. salaries are falling. Employer says compensation is just resetting. I'll give you my personal opinion on it, but according to the BBC, on 7 March 2024, the author Alex Christine said that salaries are for new roles are stagnating, which means that it's falling in some cases or just not increasing. So, but this is not for all jobs. And when I looked at the surveys on ZipRecruiter, Indeed, and other companies, it does show that the salary is not increasing as it's supposed to. It's actually lowering in some roles. So, and this is me looking at the ZipRecruiter pay trend and Indeed pay trend. As a business owner, entrepreneur, this is something you need to pay attention to. So whenever you hire your employees, you pay according to the market, higher than the market. You just can't just throw a random number out there and pay people. So how I do it is I do a survey and look at these jobs, and even when I apply to jobs, I look at how much the market price for you. So the effect of the oversupply is one of the reasons. So what happened is they're saying it's a reset. So this reset is pretty much just because were jumping jobs for higher salaries because people didn't want to take the COVID shot, and and it peaked out in around 2022. And when it peaked out, it climbed 9.3% that year over year, and in 2022. And that, if you notice, that's during COVID time. People didn't want to work. People had to start quitting their jobs because why? People wanted to stay at home with their family, or they didn't have childcare. But by January 2024, it decreases by 3.6, downward trend. So beginning of this year, it's been a downward trend for people who are applying to jobs, and the salaries are getting lower. And this doesn't apply to all jobs. So where is this going to affect is mainly hospitality and retail stores, where the growth in 2022 was like 11.8%. And that's nearly, four times as much as the 3%, 4% pay raise every year over year. So they're kind of calling this like the whiplash effect, wherever in 2022, and this is in the United States and UK where they're seeing this happen. They had a very high increase of salary. People were leaving jobs, and this is what the chart is saying. This is not someone just randomly saying it out there. It This is based off the chart. I have looked at the quarterly increase in American employers spending on wages, and this is the wages spending on employees. So according to um, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Status, and if you look at the quarterly employer spending, so this is how much employers are spending. They have to report this. So every quarter they kind of report it, or every year they kind of look at this. And in 2021, it had a big increase, but in 2022, it had an even bigger increase. But then 2023 and 2024, you start noticing it going down. And how's this going to affect the job market? Well, the job market is what's going to happen is you're not going to get as many people jumping from job to job, because the big part about people who are jumping from job to job was because they're offering better salaries. They were offering, better compensation. You can negotiate more. And now the companies and entrepreneurs are trying to hire people, and they're saying, "Hey, I can't increase prices no more." This is the whiplash from it, because they can't sell product. People are complaining that these product or service are too high for people to pay, and or they have a contract at a certain price point, and they pretty much say, "We can't lose no more money, so where can we sacrifice it?" And where they can sacrifice it is, guess where? Employees. So they're gonna start getting rid of the high cost employees and try to hire lower cost employees to do the exact same amount of work. And this is gonna affect the job market industry. So if you're one of those people that are constantly looking for a job, you're gonna start noticing, hey, you're not gonna they're offering less, or they're barely matching what you're doing now. And you're not going to be able to continue this market of job hopping. And two, they're noticing, people are doing remote working and are working 2 jobs or 3 jobs at the same time. So how's that fair if you're not fully dedicating your time during that 8 to 5 you're supposed to be working, or the 8 hour shift? Now, if you work in 2 8 hour shifts or 2 full-time jobs, how are you doing it if you are working full time at one job? All right. So I'm sorry I had to cut there earlier, but the issue that's arising with the multiple people with multiple jobs is causing this type of backlash too. So some of the issues that are going to come out about this is they're going to see a less of a pay increase in the industries across the board. And you're going to see this in with the job offers, where people are not going to be making as much as entry level as 2 years ago or a year ago. And that's going to cause some backlash too in the companies. Now, what's going to happen is they're going to find out that people are not going to like it. People are going to start blasting companies online for saying, hey, they don't go here, and they're going to have less people applying to these jobs. Now, if that means better opportunity for new grads to get into some of these jobs, or people are looking for jobs. Now, some of the negatives that comes with this is people are going to hate um, their current companies, and they're going to start having negative work environments because they can't leave their job no more, because of most people increase their salaries, also increase their standard of living. And that's going to cause an issue in the workplace and between the generations, Gen X, boomers, millennials, and Gen Zs, that current workplace. Now, the biggest people that have multiple jobs and jump from job to job right now is Gen Zs and millennials. Well, millennials probably going to stay at their jobs, and Gen Zs are not going to be able to job hop as much because they can't increase their salaries. And so they're going to have people working at their workplace longer. One of the reasons why people leave a company is because their salaries, their managers, and just a bad work environment. You never really see a bad or a happy employee leaving the company unless they're retiring. So is this backlash going to really do much in America? I don't think it's going to affect the industry, but you're going to start noticing that people are not going to be able to afford stuff, and hopefully it has a effect on lowering the cost of goods. So that's one of the positive things that can happen. With people not being able to make as much, they can't charge as much for these services, and they can't charge as much for these goods. Now, the issue during COVID was This is just a delayed reaction. Cost of goods went up, and companies had to overcompensate, so they started skyrocketing some of these prices. We might be able to see some of these prices to go down on these materials, and be able to get some of these food prices to go down. The gas prices might be able to go down because people aren't making as much, so they can't charge as much anymore. So that's the reverse effect of inflation. We might have deflation on the cost of goods, and that will actually be a good thing. So we might start seeing deflation in the industry. I don't think it's gonna really happen as fast, but this is a whiplash from COVID. So like, subscribe. That's my personal opinion on it. But pretty much, this is just a whiplash. It was going to happen eventually where um, salaries were going to stagnate. And it was going to happen either this year, next year, or in 2, 3 years from now. Pays were going to have to stagnate sometime. And it would pay stagnating. What happens is it will be able to deflate the cost of goods because they don't need to charge as much, because one of the biggest costs of goods are the salary of the employees. And that's why grocery stores or um, restaurants have to charge more, because people need to make more money to survive. And hopefully this helps. With some people, it's not a good thing for a lot, but I'm trying to look at the positive side, because if I keep looking at the negative sides, um, it just makes you depressed and gives you a headache. But if you look at the labor and statistic, or the Indeed, you start seeing that salaries are dropping in 2024. So, like and subscribe. Is kind of not the best news in the world, but it is what it is. That companies are starting to pay less, and this is according to the stats from ZipRecruiter, Indeed, and even LinkedIn are starting to show that the pay is on the decline for these new job positioning. So people are probably going to stay at their jobs now because they can't jump ship for less money if they can't afford it. So let's see what happens. Maybe people stop jumping jobs and less people start applying to jobs. Maybe Generation Z will stop jumping job to job, and millennials stop jumping job, and people will actually stay at a company for 5 years, and the cost of goods will maybe stop increasing as much. All right, like and subscribe. That's all I got for this.